Harvard pinged 2,250 people at random, several times a day. An app asked them the same question every time. Where is your mind right now? The result wasn't what the research team expected. Almost half the time, the mind wasn't where the body was. And the most unsettling part wasn't that number. It was discovering what that wandering mind does to your happiness, without you noticing. Think about the last time you read a whole page and remembered none of it, or drove a familiar route and arrived without knowing how. Your body was there. Your mind was somewhere else entirely. Psychologists call this mind wandering. For years, it was treated as a minor glitch, barely worth studying. Today, we know it's one of the most frequent, most studied mental states in modern neuroscience, and it has its own dedicated brain network. In 2010, Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert at Harvard designed a simple but ambitious experiment. They built an iPhone app that contacted participants at random moments throughout the day. It asked 3 things: what they were doing, how happy they felt, and whether their mind was somewhere else. They collected over 250,000 responses from 2,250 different people. The results were published in Science and changed the conversation around human attention. On average, the mind wandered 46.9% of the time recorded, almost half of waking life, somewhere else. But the finding that surprised the researchers themselves was different. People's happiness didn't depend much on the activity they were doing. It depended on whether their mind was present or wandering, even during pleasant activities. But what nobody expected is what happens inside the brain during that exact state. In the early 2000s, neuroscientist Marcus Raichle at Washington University in St. Louis noticed something strange in his brain scans. When participants stopped doing a specific task, certain brain regions didn't shut off. They lit up. Raichle named this set of regions the default mode network. It includes the medial prefrontal cortex, the posterior cingulate cortex, and the precuneus. This network activates exactly when you think your brain is resting, and it has a very specific job: simulating scenarios that aren't happening, replaying past conversations, anticipating future situations, building your sense of identity, moment to moment. In other words, when your mind wanders, it isn't empty. It's running one of the most sophisticated cognitive functions that exist. But what nobody expected is how much energy that process actually costs. Your brain weighs around 2% of your total body weight, but it consumes close to 20% of all the energy your body generates. And here's the counterintuitive part. When you're solving a concrete math problem, your brain's energy use barely rises above baseline. When your mind wanders aimlessly, consumption stays almost as high. The default mode network is metabolically one of the most expensive networks in the entire brain. This means something that contradicts intuition. Doing nothing isn't a low-energy state. It's your brain running one of its most expensive processes all the time in the background. Mental rest, as we usually understand it, simply doesn't exist. But what nobody expected is that this same necessary network could also become a problem. The default mode network doesn't just simulate futures and replay the past. It's also the network responsible for rumination. That loop of repetitive thoughts about something that already happened or hasn't happened yet. Neuroimaging studies in people with depression and anxiety show something consistent: hyperconnectivity in those same default mode network regions. The stronger the connection between these areas, the more intense and persistent the repeated negative thoughts. It's not that these people choose to overthink, it's that their default mode network is, literally, more active than usual. The same network that lets you imagine your future can, without a break, trap you in it indefinitely. But what nobody expected is that there's a trainable way to regulate that network. In 2011, Judson Brewer, a researcher at Yale, scanned the brains of experienced meditators and people with no prior experience. the meditators showed lower activity in the core regions of the default mode network. That alone was an important finding. But he found something even more relevant. When the network did activate in meditators, it showed stronger connectivity with regions responsible for monitoring and self-control. In simple terms, when their mind wandered, they noticed almost immediately, and they could redirect their attention far faster than a beginner. They weren't avoiding the wandering mind. They were learning to catch it the exact moment it happened. Here's the fact you're going to remember tonight. The meditators in Brewer's study weren't beginners with a few weeks of practice. The combined average meditation experience among participants exceeded 10,000 hours, the same number popularized as the threshold for mastering any complex skill. Playing an instrument, speaking a new language, competing in chess at a high level, it turns out that regulating your own wandering mind follows that same learning curve. It isn't a gift you're born with or without. It's a cognitive skill that's trained, hour after hour, session after session, and every minute you spend noticing your mind left and bringing it back is, literally, the training. Your mind isn't broken because it wanders almost half the time. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do. The difference between suffering because of that or working with it is, simply, training. When during the day, do you notice your mind wandering the most? At work? Commuting? Before falling asleep? Tell me in the comments. I want to see the pattern in this community. If this video helped you understand your own mind a little better, hit like and subscribe to Meditation Science. Next week, we look at what happens in the brain of someone with over 50,000 hours of meditation and why scientists describe it as impossible. 13 vistas en 11 horas para un canal recién creado está bien para empezar. Lo que de verdad importa ahora es mantener la cadencia semanal en ambos canales. Pasamos a los prompts de imagen del vídeo 2 en el estilo flat naranja barra coral, ¿o prefieres primero generar el audio de este guión?